I think there is a less than zero possibility that we did not go to the moon. I know. Never had a single biological organism go out into deep space, past the Van Allen radiation belts, and then come back to Earth and come back alive, except human beings during the Apollo missions. No one's ever even gone into deep space since 1972.
We also haven't been trying.
We haven't been trying, but we always talk about going back, but nobody ever gets anywhere.
Well, I think that's because we lost the spirit and hunger for discovery.
Okay, so what you just heard is only the start of an absolutely mind-bending conversation. On this video, Joe Rogan sits down with Matt Walsh, and together they dive deep into one of the most controversial and fascinating topics ever, the moon landing. From the radiation belts that should have fried the Apollo astronauts, to the mystery of why NASA retired the most powerful rocket ever built, and even the scientific proof that still sparks debates today, this back and forth is packed with twists that'll leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about space exploration.
You're moon landing. You're not a... You believe in the moon landing, right?
I used to believe in the moon landing.
You don't anymore?
I had a joke in my act about it, that before COVID, I would have told you vaccines is the most important invention in human history, and after COVID, I'm like, I don't think we went to the moon.
Yeah, I know that was in your... But you actually think that.
I think there is a less than zero possibility that we did not go to the moon. I know. Why do you think we went to the moon?
Because it's exactly what you just said about... Well, there's a lot of reasons, but the main thing is what you just said about the Earth. The vastness of the conspiracy that would be required to fake that. It's so vast that it's a lot more incredible to believe that we faked it than to believe that we just went. And going to the moon, it's a massive achievement. But I think the greatest human achievement of all time. But even so, to fake it would be even more massive, because not only would you need all of these space agencies and all the different whatever people in American institutions to be colluding, but you'd also need foreign governments, including adversarial foreign governments, who at this point certainly would know we faked it, and for some reason haven't blown the lid on it. So they're letting us take this achievement that they know. Why haven't the Russians?
Okay, so right now they're digging into the Van Allen radiation belts. And honestly, this is one of the most fascinating and confusing parts of the moon landing debate. These belts are layers of charged particles trapped by Earth's magnetic field. And if you pass through them without proper shielding, it's like walking through an invisible storm of radiation. What's wild is that the Apollo missions went through them in the 60s and 70s, supposedly with tech way less advanced than what's in a smartphone today. That's the part that blows people's minds. If it was possible back then, why haven't we done it more since?
Come out and
all those things you're saying are true. Right. I don't argue with any of the things you're saying. But one of the things that I think you have to consider was, if it's not possible for human beings to safely go through the Van Allen radiation belts and out into deep space without much protection and face the temperatures that are on the surface of the moon, which get up to 250 degrees and 250 degrees below zero in the shadows. There's no environment there. It's hostile beyond belief. Micrometeorites are flying into the moon all the time. They're flying through space all the time. We've never had a single biological organism go out into deep space, past the Van Allen radiation belts, and then come back to Earth and come back alive, except human beings during the Apollo missions. Every single space station mission, every single space shuttle mission, all of them are inside 350 miles from the Earth's surface. The only time human beings have ever been past that and through the Van Allen radiation belts was the Apollo missions. And we were the only humans that were ever able to do that. The Russians never figured out how to do it. No one else figured out how to do it but the Apollo astronauts. And we did it 7 times, 6 successfully, from 1969 to 1972.
Now, let me tell you something interesting. When people talk about Saturn V rockets, they weren't just big, they were unmatched in power. The Saturn V remains the most powerful rocket ever successfully flown. The fact that NASA retired it after Apollo makes a lot of folks scratch their heads. If you've already got a vehicle that works, why not keep using it? This gap feeds the suspicion. Honestly, it's like having the blueprint for a car that can go 300 miles an hour, parking it in the garage and never driving it again. That doesn't mean it was fake, but it does feel strange.
if you said to me, do you think that they could fake the moon landing today? I would say no. I would say no. People are going to be able to track it. It's very easy. They have satellites. They're going to know everything. But in 1969, the technology was so crude that when they first showed the Apollo 11 landing, they didn't even show a direct feed to the networks. So like if you're on CBS News, you don't get a direct feed. What you do is you point a camera at a projection screen. So that's why the film looks so shitty. The camera is pointed to a projection screen where you see the astronauts jumping around on the moon. And you see this weird, grainy, third generation image, right? And we did it, and we have never done it since. And we've always said we're going to do it, and no one's ever even come close. No one's ever even gone into deep space since 1972.
We also haven't been trying.
We haven't been trying. But we always talk about going back, including Herbert Walker Bush talked about going back. George W. talked about going back. They all talk about going back, but nobody ever gets anywhere.
Well, I think that's because we lost the spirit and hunger for discovery.
We didn't just lose that. We lost all the technology from the Saturn V rocket. They don't even have that anymore. In fact, they don't even have the original film. They erased all the original footage of the Apollo missions. So you just have copies of everything.
All right. So this part about the reflectors on the moon is crucial. Apollo astronauts supposedly placed these retroreflectors on the lunar surface, and to this day, scientists bounce lasers off them to measure the exact distance between the Earth and the moon. That's compelling evidence, right? But skeptics push back and say, well, maybe they were put there by unmanned missions. And to be fair, the Soviet Union and later missions did land robotic craft on the moon too. So the evidence is good, but it's not airtight. This is why the debate drags on proof exists, but interpretation is where the fight happens.
You could develop the technology again. You can do all that.
Sure you could. If you can get through the Van Allen radiation belts into deep space with human beings and have them safely come back.
But I think what you're describing to me, all that does is highlight how incredible the achievement was.
If they did it. Right, if they did it.
But I don't, well, here's the main point. There's no evidence, because saying that it was a hoax is an assertion of it's not you're not just denying an event, you're asserting a whole other event that you say happened instead. And there is evidence that we went to the moon. Now someone who's a skeptic might say it's not enough evidence or it's not good evidence. There's like evidence. There's eyewitness there's people that went and came back and told us. There's footage. There's a lot. There is evidence.
Okay,
but there's no evidence of the hoax. Like no one has come and said, "Here's my affirmative evidence that this hoax happened." It's never happened, right, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
No one's ever provided that evidence.
I see what you're trying to say. The evidence that they went to the moon, there's a bunch, right? There's moon rocks. That's one. There's lunar reflectors that they placed on the moon. That's another. And there's a couple problems with those.
Honestly, the lunar rocks are another layer of this puzzle. Over 800 pounds of moon rocks were supposedly brought back by Apollo missions. Geologists studied them and said, yeah, these don't look like Earth rocks. They show signs of being bombarded by micrometeorites, and their isotopic ratios are unique. Still, conspiracy folks argue some could have been meteorites that already landed on Earth. It's like there's always a counterpoint. The crazy part is that the majority of scientists around the world had access to these samples, not just NASA. So unless every independent lab is in on it, that kind of strengthens the authenticity.
First of all, the Soviets put laser reflectors on the moon as well. And also the moon itself, in many places where you shine lasers on it, it bounces back by itself. The reflective quality of the moon, the reason why the moon is so bright and white in the sky when the sun hits it, is a certain amount of, you get a certain amount of bounce back off of different things with lasers. There's some photographs that are interesting. What was it? Was the India? What was the one where they got the most high resolution photos of the lander?
I'm looking at Wikipedia right now of all third-party evidence of the Apollo mission.
One of the things that's interesting is they gave a moon rock to, was it a prime minister of Holland? Is that what it was? Which one was the moon rock they gave that turned out to be petrified wood? So the Apollo astronauts gave a moon rock to some foreign dignitary, and it turned out to be a piece of petrified wood. They do have samples of moon rocks that came from the moon, but we also have those on Earth. In fact, Werner von Braun in 1968, I believe, went to Antarctica. There's all these photographs of him in Antarctica. Antarctica is a great place to take moon rocks because Antarctica is just this gigantic sheet of white, and you can spot the meteorites in the ground.
Okay, so the bigger theme here is about evidence versus doubt. You've got lasers bouncing off reflectors, moon rocks studied worldwide, photographs of landing sites from newer orbiters. Yet the suspicion stays alive because people point out gaps missing original tapes, the retirement of Saturn V, and the fact that no one has returned in 50 years. And honestly, that's why this conversation hits so hard. It shows how trust isn't just about evidence, it's about consistency. If humanity did something so epic, why not do it again? That's the thought that keeps both Joe and the audience locked in.
So this is an Indian space research organizations. I don't know how to say that word. Chandrayaan-2 orbiter captured images of NASA's Apollo 11 and 12 landing sites and lunar modules from 100-kilometer altitude. Apollo 12 image astronaut boots tracks are still even visible. Due to the recent interest in another post I shared, decided to download how to view the raw imagery. So that looks like there's some kind of thing on the moon.
It's pretty good evidence.
Wow, that really shows why the moon landing still fires people up even decades later. You've got Joe pushing the tough questions, and Matt Walsh throwing out ideas that make you stop and think, especially about things like radiation rockets and those reflectors still sitting up there. Whether you believe every detail or you've got doubts, one thing's clear. The mystery around space travel isn't going away anytime soon. And honestly, that's what makes this back and forth so fascinating. It's not just history. It's a reminder of how much we still question, even about our greatest achievements.